Okay, welcome to the show today, Soul Warriors. Welcome, Reverend Angel Kyodo Williams. Angel, thank you for joining us on Soul Feed and for being here today. It's a pleasure to finally reconnect after our time together in upstate New York.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
I wanted to start off really nice and simple for everyone because we actually haven't even yet, to my knowledge, had a Zen Buddhist Sensei on Soul Feed before. So I thought we'd start off like nice and simple.
You don't have like tons of Buddhist senseis on your show?
I know, where are all the calling all Buddhist senseis?
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear from you what your definition and interpretation of Buddhism is for some of our listeners who might be listening, who are sort of just opening themselves up to some of the principles of Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. So I'll start by saying that I'm probably not the most Buddhist of Buddhist people. And there are lots of ways in which people approach Buddhism, both, and I want to say the primary ways being philosophical. So there's people that are philosophical Buddhists. There are people that are more religious Buddhists in that, the sense of the way that we hold religion. And I'm kind of someplace in between, and then broaden out. I like to say that I'm post-Zen in many ways. I'm much more interested in the way that the principles can be applied to the life that we are living, and so that each of us can live into a liberated life. So that said, I'll say that what is sort of at the core of Buddhism are the teachings of the historic Buddha who lived around 2,600 years ago. His name was Gautama Buddha, and he basically, came from wealth and privilege. He was part of the warrior caste. And warriors in that sense, in that time, meant they were a protector class of people that were the second caste in a sort of like set of four, right, castes. So they were very close to the high caste, other than the Brahmins, the high spiritual folks. So we often talk about Buddha as a prince, and he's not like Prince Charles type prince, right? It's a prince in kind of like a warrior clan, and he belonged to and of a clan, and he was the son, and so that's what that it kind of gets translated to prince, but to just kind of flesh it out a little bit. And he had a cloistered life, as many people that are privileged and wealthy do, and came outside of the compound of the palace, as the story goes, and encountered particularly old age, sickness, and death are the three things, and had this deep and moving sense of like, wow, I'm kind of not with it. I don't know really what's going on, and what is this about, all of this suffering. And so he went and took himself out, and went through many things, being an ascetic, and sort of like he went in the extremes in terms of spiritual path, and ended up in the middle way. And his first set of teachings, after sitting through the night, really being tempted by different permutations of the potential to be locked into suffering, the theory goes is that he touched the ground and said, basically, the earth is my witness, and I have the right to be here and to be free. And so out of that, he then had a first set of teachings that people that's common sort of all throughout the Buddhist landscape and the primary one, which I think confuses a lot of people, is that life is suffering. And that's sort of shorthand. And what that really means is that life is characterized by this human experience of suffering, that things don't go our way, that we have an upside down interpretation of reality as it is. And as a result of that, we then suffer, we experience suffering. So it's not just life is some horrible, cesspool, but rather because we're not, we don't face reality as it is, and rather than yearning for it to be different in some way, right? We want it to be colder when it's hot. We want it to be hotter when it's cold. We want it to be raining when it's too dry, right? And we also, want for people that are that we love to not be lost, but there is death. We don't want to be ill, but there is sickness. We don't want to grow old. There is old age. And so these are the core things. And so he taught these basic truths, that life is suffering, that there is a cause of suffering, that the cause of suffering is the attachment that we have to a way of perceiving reality, right? And our own thirsts for things to be, that there is a path out of suffering, right? That there is a way out of suffering, and then he expounded upon what's called the Eightfold Path, a kind of like circular doorway to different practices that culminate in one's potential for liberation.
Mm.
You've got the whole thing. Like nobody has to study any Buddhism, because that was it right there.
Yeah, there it is. Buddhism in a nutshell. And so I'm wondering, with your experience of, I mean, this is something that I'm in the practice of studying, and I know a lot of people, a lot of Buddhists' teachings and principles, I feel, are reaching a lot of people without necessarily the Buddhist name on them. And I'm wondering, in your experience, the practice of non-attachment to me, it's very obviously desirable to practice not being attached to my self-concept or to my relationship or to the way that others perceive me. And I'm wondering, like, it sounds so nice, and it sounds like, even when we talk about it, like it's even attainable. But how do you actually practice non-attachment, specifically when you're noticing that you are attached to something?
Yeah. So I think
Hmm. Hey, Angel, can you hear me? You have frozen up for me for some reason. Hmm.